So recently I've been going through the Japanese air tree. Initially I was going for the R2s, but after playing for a while I started to enjoy air quite a bit compared to ground. As I continued through the tech tree, the Kikka piqued my interest and I decided to give it a shot. I mean, it looks akin to the SU-9 or 11 or that of the MU-262s. However, this thing may look like those planes, but man does it not even compare. And in the bad sense. If you couldn't tell by the footage in the background, this thing does not turn well. Like at all. From what I can tell, pretty much everything you will be facing at this BR can outturn you with ease, and it's pretty easy for them to stick to your tail unless you're fighting props in a down tier. But as long as the SU-11 exists, you won't be seeing those too often. It's not impossible to reverse someone in a plane like this, it's just that if you're put in a situation where you have to do that, you're most likely dead either way. The turning also makes it a pain to try and aim these guns, which would be fine if these guns were actually useful. It seems that in recent times, HE for mid-caliber guns were nerfed into the ground. Back when I was playing the R2s, I found that as long as you get a hit, you were golden. Now it might be due to the lack of armament, as the Kikka only gets one 30mm cannon stock and two after the upgrade, but I've been getting a lot more hits and sparks than ever before. To illustrate my point, look at this. It takes way more shots just to take out a single AAA emplacement. And now I do absolutely nothing to vehicles. I guess this would be fine if you had ammo, but guess what? The Kikka doesn't have that either, sharing a measly 100 round capacity between the two guns, and if you're stock, you don't exactly have accuracy on your side either. So surely there's something redeeming about this plane, right? I mean, it's a jet, and hey, I see that it gets boosters. Well, not exactly. You see, the boosters are only used for takeoff, as they impede the landing gear from retracting once you get into the air. And even if you sacrifice your gear, you only get just a few seconds, not enough to even last the entire runway. So those are pretty much useless. At its current state, I just don't see the point of the Kikka. I want to like it, but Gaijin is just making these Japanese 30s harder to use, which is the main reason why you see a bunch of these over-tiered flying underpowered bricks for the Japan tech tree. Now don't get me wrong, these 30s still pack some punch to them, with them making enemy planes go boom on the offhand occasion. But throughout my outings with the Kikka, I found myself seeing more hits that basically do nothing, crits that allow the enemy plane to still fly only to get kill stolen by a third party, or outright sparks. Now, I know I'm not the greatest pilot and my jet experience is fairly lacking, but it's pretty annoying when those rounds connect and basically do nothing. Anyways, rant over. Let's see what I was able to do with this plane. So here in this first match, I just come down from a climb. There was another target I was chasing but whiffed all my shots. This Horton 229 is not really paying attention, so I get a hit and a crit off on him. As I turn back around to engage the enemies chasing the F-80, you can see the lack of elevator and rudder authority. Yet this thing is able to roll with relative ease, like too easily compared to the other performances. Now you get to see my impeccable skill in taking out this T-Hawk. Yeah. Not much happens here from now on except for some defensive flying against this SU-11. The roll rate allows you to reverse people to some extent, but not having the elevator or rudder to do that is rough. As expected, the Horton gets killed by a teammate and the SU-11 decides to go head on with me. Risky move, but we were able to land our minimal shots on the pilot. Luckily, that still does decent damage. I then turn my attention to ground units just to confirm that high explosive belts do nothing to them now. And as you can see, nothing. On my way back to the airfield, a Tu-14 gets spotted and I decide to give it a visit. Just a few short bursts later and the tail gets cut off. Fast forward quite a bit, and all that's left on the enemy team is a MiG-9. It goes head on with a friendly F-80, killing it, but suffering critical damage. All that's left to do is line up the shot, and that's match number 1. On to match number 2. We commence our assault on an F-7F, which is a pretty easy target. Ignore that hit. I then turn my attention to the pair of F-84s around my teammate and pick the easiest one to get. After some interesting aiming, one of the rounds clips the wing and takes Noon out of the game. I then whiff all my shots on the first pass on the second F-84, and after giving chase, I land a hit on the tail and take him out. Turning back towards a friendly, I try to relieve them of props circling around. Pick a convenient target and engage. Fatal crit to the P-51, and that marks kill number 4. Due to my dwindling team and low ammo, I'm forced to return to base. I try to help out this J7W, but it ends up crashing on the runway. Due to my low altitude, I decide to turn towards the airfield. As you can see, that P-51 is much higher than me, and I don't want to be dealing with that. After some quick back and forth banter, we go into a head-on. Luckily I made it out fairly unscathed, and immediately we are put on the defensive. But since he is in a P-51, we can run and reset the fight. This process is repeated a couple times, mainly because I can't land a shot. At this point, his energy has almost completely run out, and I'm able to land a crit on him. I try to pressure him into more maneuvers that will kill any chance of him returning to his airfield. And once the last P-51 pops in, I decide to break off and climb. Another unnecessary head-on almost ends the match right then and there. At this moment, I'm thinking of creating some sort of energy trap. And yeah, the lack of turning almost killed me there. The first P-51 goes down, and that marks my 5th kill of the match. This was my best match that I had in the Kikka, and I'm sorry, Mr. Aaron Dean, but I'm not planning on losing this game, even if it means running like a coward. I try to set up more energy traps, but keep falling victim to poor turning decisions, and end up running the timer out. In the end, we made it out with 5 kills and surprisingly no assists. And I'd say that was a pretty good match, except for the last engagement. So yeah, my overall thoughts on the Kikka is it's a pretty fun plane to play, but in its current state, the 30 mils just leave a lot to be desired. Let's just say that. Anyway, I'm planning on sticking to this sort of format from now on. So if you have any suggestions about what I should do differently, just leave them in the comments. Anyways, thank you for staying till the end, and I'll catch you later.